and welcome to Millennium News Hour. I am Tanziba Naurin. In today's bulletin, we will present top and trending news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. Gunman kills 3, including child, reporter covering first death. Biden shores up Western allies as Putin digs in on Ukraine. Jill Biden's White House M&M's a hit with giddy Namibian kids. Winter storms shut down much of Portland, paralyzed travel. Biden considers first offshore wind auction in Gulf of Mexico. On stand, Alex Murdaugh denies killings but admits lying. US nominates Ajay Banga for World Bank president. Trump lawyers blast election probe after grand jury speaks. No cow needed, oat and soy can be called milk, FDA proposes. Batman, Bridges and Zendaya to present at SAG Awards. More bodies found in China mine collapse, 48 remain missing. Pakistan-Afghan border crossing shut after brief reopening. Iconic West African leader Sankara reburied in Burkina Faso. Bird flu kills 11-year-old girl in Cambodia, officials say. TikTok banned from EU Commission phones over cybersecurity. Alabama's Miller stirs amid alleged role in fatal shooting. US women win She Believes Cup with 2-1 victory over Brazil. And Brazil's Bellucci retires at age 35 after Rio Open defeat. Now news in detail. A gunman accused of killing a woman in the Orlando area returned to the same neighborhood hours later and shot 4 more people, killing a journalist covering the original shooting and a 9-year-old child, Florida police said. Spectrum News 13 identified the slain reporter Thursday as Dylan Lyons. Photographer Jesse Weldon was also wounded. The two were in an unmarked news vehicle on Wednesday afternoon covering the first homicide when a man approached and shot them, Orange County Sheriff John Mina said during a news conference. The man then went to a nearby home where he fatally shot Tiona Major and critically wounded her mother. Officials have not yet released the name of the girl's mother. The sheriff said police have detained Keith Melvin Moses, who is 19 years old, who they believe is responsible for all of the shootings. Mina said police didn't immediately know the motive for the shootings. He said Moses was acquainted with Natasha Augustine, who was the first victim, but did not appear to have a connection with any of the others. He said it was not clear if Moses knew that 2 of the people shot were journalists and noted their vehicle didn't look like a typical news van or have the station's logo on it. It was not immediately known whether Moses has a lawyer who can speak on his behalf. President Joe Biden closed out his wartime visit to Europe on Wednesday, working to shore up partnerships with allies on NATO's perilous eastern flank, even as Russia's Vladimir Putin was drawing closer to China for help as his invasion of Ukraine neared the one-year mark. Biden's meeting with leaders of the Bucharest Nine Nations in Warsaw came at the conclusion of a whirlwind 4-day visit to Ukraine and Poland meant to reassure allies that US support in fending off Russia isn't at risk of waning. In dramatic counterpoint, Putin on Wednesday played host in Moscow to Wang Yi, the Chinese Communist Party's most senior foreign policy official, as US intelligence warned that Beijing is considering supplying arms and ammunition to the worn-down Russian military. The flexing of alliances was a fresh indication that both sides are digging in for prolonged conflict in Ukraine, with the fighting expected to intensify with the arrival of spring. Biden's trip had provided yet another moment of telling counter-programming on Tuesday when he delivered a ringing speech on Western unity in Warsaw, a day after he swept into Kiev unannounced for a visit with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. US First Lady Jill Biden told an enthused crowd of Namibian leaders on Thursday that the futures of the US and Africa are intertwined, saying that African voices and leadership are critical to solving the world's most pressing challenges. Addressing a luncheon in her honor that featured colorful singing, dancing, and drumming, Biden said that when she and President Joe Biden were discussing her 5-day visit to the continent, he told her how much Namibia's struggle against apartheid inspired him to speak out when he was a US Senator. Namibia was once under the rule of South Africa, where the government operated under a now abolished system of white minority rule. He understood then, as he does now, that our futures are intertwined. The First Lady told an audience of about 200 Namibian government officials, former Namibian First Ladies, diplomats, non-governmental organizations and community-based leaders, United Nations staff, and others. Namibian First Lady Monica Gengos told Biden that her visit was a powerful sign of friendship for a country that needs work. Gengos added that one of the reasons Namibia doesn't make international headlines is because it's a functioning democracy with the fundamentals in place. Dangerous winter weather trapped drivers on icy roads, knocked out power to hundreds of thousands, and grounded multiple flights from California through the northern plains on Thursday. For the first time since 1989, the National Weather Service issued a blizzard warning through Saturday for Southern California mountains. Forecasters predicted multiple rounds of new snowfall with accumulations of up to 3 to 5 feet for the Sierra Nevada region. Rare snow is also expected over some lower foothills and valley areas near the Pacific coast, the Weather Service said, given the depth of cold air that has infiltrated the West. The intense moisture in the air also creates an increased risk of flash flooding through Saturday, forecasters said. Some coastal areas could see waves as high as 10 to 14 feet through Thursday, forecasters said. The series of storms sowed chaos from coast to coast. At one point Wednesday, more than 65 million people in more than 24 states were under weather alerts. The Weather Service said temperatures in some parts of the upper Midwest could reach 40 degrees below average, while high readings on Thursday in the Mid-Atlantic and Southeast could get to 40 degrees above average. Few places were untouched by the wild weather, including some at the opposite extreme. Long-standing record highs were broken in cities in the Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, and Southeast. The wintry mix hit hard in the northern U.S., closing schools, offices, even shutting down the Minnesota legislature. Travel was difficult. Weather contributed to more than 1,600 U.S. flight cancellations, according to the tracking service FlightAware. More than 400 of those were due to arrive or depart from the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. Another 5,000 plus flights were delayed across the country. The Biden administration said Wednesday it is considering the first ever lease sale for offshore wind energy in the Gulf of Mexico, a key part of a push to deploy 30 gigawatts of offshore wind by 2030 to help fight climate change. The proposed sale, which could take place as soon as this summer, includes areas offshore Lake Charles, Louisiana, and Galveston, Texas, for roughly 3.6 gigawatts of electricity, enough to power about 1.3 million homes. The Bureau of Ocean Energy Management plans to open a 60-day public comment period on Friday. The area offshore Lake Charles could be modified and possibly shrunk based on the comments received, and BOEM may decide to offer only one of two lease areas proposed of Galveston. The Gulf is the nation's primary offshore source of oil and gas, generating about 97% of all oil and gas production on the U.S. outer continental shelf, according to BOEM. Disgraced South Carolina attorney Alex Murdaugh took the stand in his own defense at his double murder trial Thursday to deny killing his wife and son, but admitted lying about when he last saw them. Murdaugh, who is 54 years old, is charged with fatally shooting his wife Maggie and their 22-year-old son Paul, who were killed near kennels on their property on June 7, 2021. He faces 30 years to life in prison if convicted. Murdaugh continued to staunchly deny any role in the killings in his testimony 5 weeks into his trial. "I did not shoot my wife or son anytime, ever," Murdaugh responded to his defense attorney's questioning after taking the stand. Murdaugh admitted he lied to police about being at the kennels with his wife and son before the killings, but he blamed his addiction to opioids for clouding his thinking and creating a distrust of state law enforcement agents. The once prominent attorney had told police that he was visiting his ailing mother in another town and not near his Colleton County home in the hours before the killings. But several witnesses testified that they believed they heard Murdaugh's voice along with his son and wife on cell phone video taken at the kennels about 5 minutes before the shootings. Murdaugh is being held without bail on the financial and other crimes, so even if he is found not guilty, he will not walk out of court a free man. If convicted of most or all of those financial crimes, Murdaugh would likely spend decades in prison. The United States is nominating former MasterCard CEO Ajay Banga to lead the World Bank, President Joe Biden announced on Thursday, crediting him with critical experience on global challenges including climate change. The news comes days after Trump appointee David Malpass announced plans to step down in June from his role leading the 189-nation Poverty Reduction Agency. His 5-year term was due to expire in April 2024. Addressing the impacts of climate change at the multilateral bank is a priority for the U.S., and leading climate figures have urged the Biden administration to use Malpass' early departure as an opening to overhaul the powerful financial institution, which has been increasingly criticized as hostile to less wealthy nations and efforts to address climate change. Malpass ran into criticism last year for seeming, in comments at a conference, to cast doubt on the science that says the burning of fossil fuels causes global warming. He later apologized and said he had misspoken, noting that the bank routinely relies on climate science. Former President Donald Trump's lawyers in Georgia are criticizing the Fulton County investigation into potential illegal election meddling after the foreperson of the special grand jury seated to help the probe went public this week. Emily Kors first spoke out in an interview published Tuesday by the Associated Press, a story that was followed by interviews in other print and television news outlets. She described some of what happened behind the closed doors of the jury room, including how some witnesses behaved, how prosecutors interacted with witnesses, and how some witnesses invoked their rights not to answer certain questions. Trump attorneys Drew Findling and Jennifer Little said that despite having concerns about the panel's proceedings from the start, they kept quiet out of respect for the grand jury process. But they said revelations offered by courts this week compelled them to speak up. Soy, oat, almond, and other drinks that bill themselves as milk can keep using the name. According to draft federal rules released Wednesday, Food and Drug Administration officials issued guidance that says plant-based beverages don't pretend to be from dairy animals and that US consumers aren't confused by the difference. Dairy producers for years have called for the FDA to crack down on plant-based drinks and other products that they say masquerade as animal-based foods and cloud the real meaning of milk. Under the draft rules, the agency recommends that beverage makers label their products clearly by the plant source of the food, such as soy milk or cashew milk. The rules also call for voluntary extra nutrition labels that note when the drinks have lower levels of nutrients than dairy milk, such as calcium, magnesium, or vitamin D. They would continue to allow labels that note when plant-based drinks have higher levels. Fortified soy milk is the only plant-based food included in the dairy category of US dietary guidelines because of its nutrient levels. Zendaya, Jason Bateman, Jeff Bridges, and Aubrey Plaza will be among the presenters at Sunday's Screen Actors Guild Awards. The SAG Awards announced Thursday that the film and television stars will announce winners at the 29th annual ceremony, which honors the best performances on film and television. The film categories, including its Murky Film Ensemble Award, are a key Oscar bellwether. This year's ceremony will be their first as part of a multi-year deal with Netflix. The show, once broadcast on TNT and TBS, will be available as a live stream on Netflix's YouTube page Sunday beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern. Next year, it will be streamed live on Netflix. Several presenters are also nominees. Zendaya is up for Best Female Actor in a Television Drama for Euphoria, while Bridges and Bateman are television drama male actor nominees. Plaza is nominated as part of the ensemble of the hit HBO series The White Lotus. Other presenters announced Thursday include Amy Poehler, Eugene Levy, Matt Bomer, and Oscar winner Ariana DeBose. Also taking the stage will be Jenna Ortega of the Netflix series Wednesday, Adam Scott, a male drama actor nominee for Severance, and SAG AFTRA president Fran Drescher. Now it's time for global updates. Rescuers with backhoes and bulldozers dug through tons of earth and rubble Thursday for 48 people missing after a landslide buried an open pit mine in northern China. State broadcaster CCTV reported that the confirmed death toll in the disaster rose to 5. Conditions in the area remain dangerous and the search had to be suspended for several hours because of a second landslide at the gigantic facility in Inner Mongolia's Alsa Lake. On Thursday afternoon, more than a dozen bulldozers, trucks, SUVs, and fire engines were seen passing through a remote police checkpoint about 25 kilometers southwest of the mine. Nearly all personnel were stopped by police and checked for entry approvals before being allowed to proceed along the road leading to the mine. A police officer said only those with government approval would be allowed access to the area. She said people living close to the mine had been sent to stay in a nearby town. Security was also tight at another checkpoint in the neighboring region of Ningxia, 15 kilometers east of the mine, with dozens of officers inspecting every vehicle that sought to pass in either direction. Pakistan shut down a key border crossing with Afghanistan just hours after it was reopened on Thursday, officials said, the latest twist in the controversial closure of the Turkham junction that started earlier this week. The issue of the crossing, a key trade route for both Afghanistan and Pakistan, has added to increasing tensions between the two countries, which share a troubled and volatile boundary. Afghanistan's Taliban rulers on Sunday closed the crossing, claiming Islamabad was not abiding by an agreement with Kabul to allow Afghan patients and their caretakers to cross into Pakistan without travel documents for medical care. On Monday, Afghan Taliban forces and Pakistani border guards exchanged fire, which wounded a Pakistani soldier. On Wednesday, Pakistan's Defense Minister Khwaja Mohammad Asif and Secret Service Chief Lieutenant General Anjum Nadim traveled to Kabul and met senior Taliban officials to discuss the border issue. On Thursday morning, Turkham was reopened by Afghan Taliban forces, allowing some of the thousands of trucks that had lined up for days at the border, many with vegetables, fruits and other perishable food items, to cross over and ease the backlog. The late Burkina Faso revolutionary leader Thomas Sankara was reburied Thursday, 8 years after his body was exhumed as part of an investigation. Sankara's body and those of the 12 people who died with him were reburied at the site of his assassination, which has since become a memorial for Sankara, featuring a life-sized statue of the former leader pumping his fist in the air. Soldiers and community leaders paid tribute during a ceremony Thursday, some posing for pictures by Sankara's coffin. All the coffins were draped in Burkina Faso flags with a photo beside them. Sankara and the others were gunned down in the capital, Ouagadougou, during a 1987 coup and buried hastily. Their bodies were allowed to be dug up in 2015 after the ousting of former President Blaise Compaoré. Sankara, a charismatic Marxist leader with a reputation as Africa's Che Guevara, came to power in 1983 at the age of 33 after he and Compaoré led a leftist coup that overthrew a moderate military faction. But in 1987, Compaoré turned on his former friend in a coup in which he seized power and then ruled the country for 30 years. An 11-year-old girl in Cambodia has died from bird flu, in the country's first known human H5N1 infection since 2014, health officials said. Bird flu, also known as avian influenza, normally spreads in poultry and wasn't deemed a threat to people until a 1997 outbreak among visitors to live poultry markets in Hong Kong. Most human cases worldwide have involved direct contact with infected poultry, but concerns have arisen recently about infections in a variety of mammals and the possibility the virus could evolve to spread more easily between people. The girl from the rural southeastern province of Prey Veng became ill February 16 and was sent to be treated at hospital in the capital, Phnom Penh. She was diagnosed Wednesday after suffering a fever up to 39 Celsius with coughing and throat pain and died shortly afterward, the health minister said in a statement Wednesday night. The European Union's executive branch said Thursday that it has temporarily banned TikTok from phones used by employees as a cybersecurity measure, reflecting widening worries from Western officials over the Chinese-owned video-sharing app. In a first for the European Commission, its corporate management board suspended the use of TikTok and devices issued to staff or personal devices that staff use for work. TikTok faces intensifying scrutiny from Europe and the US over security and data privacy amid worries that the hugely popular app could be used to promote pro-Beijing views or sweep up users' information. It comes as China and the West are locked in a wider tug of war over technology ranging from spy balloons to computer chips. The EU's action follows similar moves in the US, where more than half of the states and Congress have banned TikTok from official government devices. Now it's time for business news. Today's New York stock close price is 15,530.83. The NYSE Composite is decreased by 41.69 points or 0.27%. Tokyo stock close price is 27,104.32. The Nikkei 225 index is decreased by 368.78 points or 1.34%. Shanghai stock close price is 3,287.477. The Shanghai Composite Index is decreased by 3.67 points or 0.11%. Hong Kong stock close price is 20,351.35. The Hang Seng Index is decreased by 72.49 points or 0.35%. Bombay stock close price is 59,605.80. The Sensex index is decreased by 139.18 points or 0.23%. Let's have a look on today's sports stories. Alabama standout freshman Brandon Miller was in the starting lineup and had a career-high scoring game in a win over South Carolina on Wednesday night. One day after police said he delivered a gun ahead of a fatal shooting that took place near campus in mid-January, and hours after the university said he would remain an active member of the number 2 ranked Crimson Tide and is not considered a suspect. Alabama's support for the Miller, one of college basketball's top players, made little difference to Gamecock fans at Colonial Life Arena, who focused on the 6'9" forward even before the Southeastern Conference game started. The crowd booed each time Miller touched the ball. Members of the student section chanted, "Lock him up" and "Guilty" several times as Miller played. Miller, who finished with 41 points, scored the decisive basket with 0.9 seconds left in OT as SEC-leading Alabama beat South Carolina 78-76. Alex Morgan and Mallory Swanson scored and the United States defeated Brazil 2-1 on Wednesday night to win the She Believes Cup for the fourth straight year. Japan, which defeated Canada 3-0 in the earlier match at Toyota Stadium, was runner-up in the four-team round-robin tournament. All four She Believes Cup teams will play in Women's World Cup this summer in Australia and New Zealand. Morgan's curling goal sailed out of reach of Brazilian goalkeeper Lorena. Morgan now has 5 goals all-time in She Believes matches. It was Morgan's 14th goal since the birth of her daughter in 2020, giving her the national team record for most goals as a mom. Swanson scored in the 63rd minute, her 4th goal of the tournament and 7th overall goal this year, matching her total of all of last year. Thomas Bellucci, Brazil's main flag bearer on the men's tennis tour for the last decade, has retired after losing in straight sets to 6th-seeded Sebastian Baez 6-3, 6-2 in the first round of the Rio Open. The 35-year-old Bellucci is now preparing to transition into coaching. Bellucci won 200 professional matches in his career, lifted 4 titles and reached a career-high number 21 in the ATP rankings. He is one of the 5 players to win a set 6-0 against Novak Djokovic on clay. He beat top 10 players 6 times in his career, including then number 4 ranked Andy Murray at the Madrid Open in 2011. Now let's have a look on today's weather forecast. That's all in today's news. Keep watching Millennium News 24 for latest updates. Millennium TV USA and Millennium News 24 network is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV. And also in all European countries and Australia available with the Sky Network, Worldwide Jago TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BD Network and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all types of informative and entertainment program. Thank you.